Every time, man, I swear, we get rolling. I'm like, why didn't I hit record a few seconds earlier? That would
all the good nuggets are in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Guido.
You disrespected my family.
Now listen here, Mr. Homeowner. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Your roof, it has some problems.
Yeah, and I'm here to fix those problems for you. I'll call on you later.
I heard you were talking to the other families.
Yeah.
The absolute construction family. The Tarrant roofing family. The really just mega giant roofers.
I got some good big guys out there.
Oh, man. Wow. Okay. So new day, Fred. New recording block.
Yes.
Starting the day off right with my buddy, Mr. Wait, I didn't roll his music, did I? We're doing things totally out of order here. Welcome to the McKinney Podcast, folks, the show where we celebrate what makes us unique by nature. The only rule on the McKinney Podcast is if it's not happening in McKinney, it ain't on the McKinney Podcast.
That's right.
You know, I've unfortunately had that conversation 3 or 4 times in the last month of someone that's doing cool things and they seem really nice and they've got an interesting story, but I'm like, hey, are you from McKinney? Do you live in McKinney? Is your business located in McKinney? And they're like, nah. I'm like, sorry, buddy. I mean, you're not on this podcast.
Yeah, you got to go to Plano podcast for that.
Yeah, I was like, you seem great, but this isn't the podcast for you.
That's right.
But that's not a problem with our guest for today. Mike Eyman is a devoted family man who married his high school crush, a bucket list adventurer, and a father of 3 with nearly 15 years of experience in the Texas roofing industry. That means he is not a chuck in a truck, boys and girls. Alongside his wife Shannon, they founded Nimble Restoration Services in 2017 and later NRS Commercial in 2023, which has seen significant growth and now specializes in large-scale roofing and office renovations. And they're excited to say that 2 oldest kids, Brooklyn and Devin, both work in the family business. And they are located right over there on Industrial, just a little bit this side of the airport. Please welcome Mike Eyman.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It's definitely I've seen these episodes, but definitely glad to be part of it now. So.
Oh yeah, you're definitely part of it, man. You know, when did we first meet? I'm trying to think, because you and I have done a lot of networking over the years. As I was preparing for this episode, I was like, when did I meet Mike Eyman? Were you with the other company before? Was it even before Nimble was a thing, or? Because you've worked in the roofing industry as a project manager and as a sales leader for other companies before you started Nimble.
Correct. I don't know if we met when I was over at Absolute. I think that our coming together was as Nimble.
Was it the book club with David Thompson? Was that what it was? No,
I don't recall. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that's the
the
world's worst intro ever, James. So how do I know you? Well, I don't know. I don't know how I know you. Or just you've been around for such a long time, and just
did I? Because obviously, a lot of our business has to do with real estate and insurance.
Yeah.
Was it a situation where maybe I propositioned hey, I'd love to.
Maybe it was back when I was a farmer's agent.
One of your preferred. Yeah. I think it was.
You called me trying to win insurance referrals back in the day.
I think so. I think that's where I try to solicit you, I guess.
Yeah.
Say, hey, give me action. Put me in, coach.
I mean, roofers and insurance agencies have an interesting relationship, categorically.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, anyways, man, the conversation, we always love to start with the person. Before we get into any company stuff or what you do or advice you have for listeners, the audience is a whole bunch of different kinds of people. It's soccer moms listening in their van, doing whatever they do, running errands. It's folks listening at their office when they're just trying to get a brain break. Lots of folks just find us entertaining or informing for whatever reason. So there's going to be, at the end of this episode, I want to ask you some questions just from an advice perspective, because unfortunately, it's about to be storm season again. And we all know how crazy storm season is in North Texas. So definitely want to get your take on some of that. But before we do, Why don't you just give us the background on Mike Eyman? How in the world did you find your way to McKinney, Texas, doing what you're doing for your career now? Family, hobbies, growing up, whatever you want to tell.
Yeah.
Would love to hear the Mike story first.
Yeah, and actually,
Yeah.
when your feet first touched the planet Earth, was it Texas soil?
It was not, and that's where I was going to go. So I was actually.
Fred loves that question.
Yeah, his voice is like, oh, okay. Actually, okay. So I was born in the Northeast. So yes, I'm a Yankee transplant. I lived most of my life in Keene, New Hampshire. My mother taught at university, coached gymnastics, which is a lot of our background. I was a gymnast, a competitive gymnast when I was young.
Really?
And yeah.
What was your event?
I mean,
Your specialty event?
You do all. I would say it's probably parallel bars was probably my best. I like floor, because I like doing flips and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm 46 years old. There's no flips, even with enough tequila. So
I'm so disappointed now.
Yeah,
I was about to ask you to prove it.
Yeah, look, we've got cameras all around.
Few years back,
we
I'd
need
be
to
like,
see
hey, move the
something.
table. Just move the table.
I'm just going to move the table. I'm going to need you to do a standing backflip right here.
Exactly. So, my parents got, really tied into doing gymnastics and training other kids. Finally, they came to the conclusion, they're like, look, we're missing out on our own kids. And so they bought a big motorhome, and we had no plan, literally no plan. And we're just like, hey, we're just going to take a year off and take a year sabbatical around the United States. So I've hit pretty much every state in the United States with the exception of Oregon and Alaska. So those will be, here soon, I'm sure. Moved down here when I was about 15, 16, roundabout. Went to high school in Whitney, Texas, where I met my now wife, Shannon. I hadn't grown into my skin, I guess, because I got turned down, and thankfully I got a second chance at love. And I organized a flash mob proposal for her at Oktoberfest. Almost made her pass out, just because she's not really in front of everybody. She doesn't like to be sung happy birthday at restaurants and things like that. And so her parents actually had a bet, like, how fast she was going to, pass out. And so I didn't find out this until later.
You might have wanted to know that ahead of time.
Yeah, I was like, hey guys, like we're making, these are not good gambles here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'm super blessed. Her and I are just the best of friends, and we run a business together. And obviously, marriage is marriage, but like we don't really fight. It's just I couldn't have put this together any better. I mean, it's awesome. So we've got 3 kids, Devin and Brooklyn, who actually work in the business. Brooklyn actually does our social media, or not all of it, but she definitely helps do some legwork and helps free up some of my time. And then Devin is actually one of our guys on the commercial side, and so he's working himself up and just helping us build stuff. So it's good. And then little Xander, he's 6 years old, autistic, and so he's awesome. He's definitely taught me a lot of patience, because it's autistic, man. You can't hold him to certain standards. And so but yeah, things are good. I had a bunch of sales jobs leading up to my emergence into the roofing industry, and I finally got into roofing sales and project management back in 2011, and was working for a company that a smaller company, but I thought was on the up and up. And over the course of educating myself, I realized that they were cutting corners and whatnot, and so I got recruited by Absolute Construction. I worked for them for about 6 years. And then they're a great company. They're doing really well. But it was kind of a situation where I was like, it's just time to, spread the wings, so to speak. And so Shannon and I formed Nimble Restoration Services. We really wanted to do more, because Absolute was more of a roofing just focused company, and I was already doing remodel work on the side because Absolute didn't want to do it. And so I was like, there's a whole business here. We could just do this together.
Yeah.
And so Shannon was working a corporate job, and I said, hey, just quit your job and we can do this together. And she was like really apprehensive about it. And she took a girls trip to Chicago, came back, and it was like a different Shannon. She was like, I'm putting my 2 weeks in. We're doing this. And I'm like, let's go.
Let's go.
I'm like, if this is all it takes is sending you off to a city, and you come back and you have this, like,
fresh perspective.
Exactly. Like, I'm down. So we started in 2017, launched it like legitimately public in 2020. I mean, and the reason for this is because in 17 we're still with Absolute, but we were, just absolute pays Nimble and so on and so forth. But we took it live
Sure.
in 2020. And it's been great. It's been great. Obviously, business ownership has highs and lows, and
It's
so,
all candy and rainbows, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, for all the viewers.
Fred's going to continue on, but before we do, I want to back up for just a second. What is Xander's superpower? Because anytime I get to talk to a parent of an autistic kid, I always love asking the question, have you discovered their superpower yet? Because every autistic kid I've ever known personally, there's one or two things that they're just exceptionally good at, way better at than they should be.
So we've noticed that he has a very good memory. So he likes stacking things and like putting things in order. And so every once in a while, like we have the top banister of our stairs in our house, and it's got like cars and little figurines and all types of stuff, and he's lined it all up. And so every once in a while, we'll go up there and we'll just try to not really mess with him, but just kind of see. And so like he'll go over here and we'll move something, and he'll come back and he'll walk past it and say, oh, and he'll move it back. And so it just, I mean, I love seeing these little quirks, you know. He's just awesome. I mean, he has obviously a little bit of a temper, but he's a lot of autistic kids are not really, they don't like touch. They don't like, snuggling or anything. And so that's not him. So I'm super thankful for that. Like, I'm like, hey, come snuggle, and he'll just get under the covers and we'll just watch cartoons together. And I'm eating it up, man. I'm just
the dad life is the best life.
I love
man.
it. I love it. I love it.
Right.
And so I mean, he's mildly verbal. He's not really just articulating whole sentences or anything like that. But he's asking for things that he wants, and it's, we just got him officially like potty trained, and so he's going on his own, and things are moving, and I'm just loving it.
That's awesome.
Man, that's amazing. Okay, so you mentioned a couple things. So, at what age were you when your parents said, "Let's get an RV and just check out the world"?
So I was probably about 14, 15, because we did the year.
Oh, wow.
We did the year on the road.
So you're prime development years for a young man, and you just take off on the road with your parents.
Yeah.
And what did you think when they said this to you?
I mean, that was so long ago. I can't remember what was going through my head, but we were homeschooled for that year, and I mean, it was a good time. I mean, we rode bikes and we hiked and all the good things, and then we got rear-ended by a drunk driver coming through Waco, headed south. We were going to go down to the border and just check out things and whatnot. And it shoved the Blazer that we were towing into the back bedroom of the motorhome, which I don't know if you guys have ever traveled, but like it's not uncommon for people to be sleeping on the bed in the back of a motorhome while you're driving. Like it's common.
Well, while someone else is driving.
Somebody else is driving. Yeah. We don't have the autonomous thing back in the day.
Yeah.
But thankfully, none of that was going on because it would have been a devastating situation. Because, I mean, the Blazer was like hanging half out. Like, Camaro hit us at like, I don't know, I think they said 70 miles an hour from the rear. And motorhomes probably going, 50. I mean, they go slower. I mean, so it worked out. I mean, we ended up, one of the local RV parks was like, hey, while you guys get your thing fixed, I heard about your story. While you get your thing fixed, we have these like single wide modular homes that we rent out to people that don't have RVs, and we'd be more than happy to offer you this in light of your situation. Well, that Southern hospitality really just took, and so my parents were like, man, we kind of like it down here. It's Lake Whitney too. I mean, it's like right by the lake.
Oh yeah,
like, okay,
beautiful.
And so that kind of turned into renting, which ended up parlaying into buying, and then here I am. And so I ended up coming up to Dallas just because I like the country, but I also wanted accessibility to stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started my my time in the Metroplex over on like the west side of Fort Worth, Lake Worth area. And then progressively just moved closer. So it was like, it was there, it was Bedford, then it was Grapevine, then it was like Northwest Highway in Preston in North Dallas, like Preston Hollow area. And then I just moved north.
Yeah.
So I moved to Lake Highlands, then I moved to Plano, and now I'm in McKinney. So.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions we always try to ask on the McKinney podcast is, why McKinney? Well, you moved up here, but I noticed the trek east and then the trek north, you've been here for a while. So before we started recording, you were talking about looking for your 100-acre wood with, hunting lease and being outdoors and having some personal space and whatnot. But I noticed you've been in McKinney for a while. So what is it about McKinney that made you pump the brakes a little bit and stick around here for a little while?
Well, so we were in Plano, and we had an opportunity at a 40-acre lot and house out in Whitewright. And so our lease was ending in Plano, and so we were like, oh, this is great. We were going to do an owner finance kind of situation, and I won't bore you with the details, but ultimately the lady ended up selling a parcel of that 40 acres, and then we didn't want it anymore. And so, well, we're at the end of our lease. What are we going to do? And so we ended up finding the house that we're in now, and we've been there for 4 years now, something like that. And we love the neighbors. I mean, don't get me wrong. My goal is to eventually move, to a large, plot of land and kind of set up and do our homestead kind of thing. But I mean, I love my neighbors. I mean, I was just talking before we kicked this thing off about, sneaking out of my neighbors' parties because I'm just at 9 o'clock. I'm at the age now where I'm like, what do you say? What do you say? Before we were sneaking out of the house and into parties. Now we're sneaking out of parties back to the house.
That's right.
It's kind of a running joke. So, yeah. I really like the people. I just in subdivisions I'm just too close. I'm too close to if I can spit and hit the foundation of the house next to me, we're too close. I mean,
or maybe you need to stop spitting.
Love you guys, but yeah, right. Love you guys, but if I can just kind of come and visit and we can socialize in other ways, I'm down. So.
I think it's interesting that not to come back around to it, but your parents were like, hey, you know what? Let's just do this, and then you had shared how. Your wife had been talking about something, and then you're like, "Hey, let's just do this." So, do you see in the future that your kids at some point are just going to be like, "Let's just do this"?
That's a really good observation. I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, just kind of a definitive, "Hey, this is the direction we want to move forward." I mean, I hope. I mean, I think any parent hopes for their kids to be prosperous and decisive. I think that you have to be. Mm-hmm. You have to make decisions. You can't just be like this. Well, I'm just going to go with the flow, because you have to be a leader to some degree. Whether that's a top leader or just somebody that can lead a small team and go out and do your thing.
That's right. So when your kids tune into this podcast, whenever it is that they get that thing to just do it, they need to just do it in McKinney, right?
I mean, they're already here. They might as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really proud of my kids. Devin is actually my stepson, but he's my son. Dad's not around, and he's done really well. And then my daughter, she plays sports and does all the things. She's a hoss. I mean, she's 975 pounds powerlifting, and
I saw that video.
Wait a minute, 975 pounds.
Yeah,
between the three.
Between three events.
Okay,
deadlift, squat, and bench.
Right. No, it's not.
Wait a minute.
No. So they do. Yeah, they do.
So she's the female world record holder, is what you're saying.
Maybe not right now, but she's dedicated, and I love it. I love watching her play and do her thing, and then she's National Honor Society. So I mean, it's all the things. So I'm super
That's
happy,
fantastic.
super proud. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
So Nimble, you got started in 2017. You broke out on your own, separated from Absolute, doing fully your own thing. Starting in 2020. Something else happened in 2020. I'm thinking about what the world was like at that point. How in the world did you guys navigate the pandemic? Because you're a brand new business when COVID is raging.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you guys?
Well, I mean, at that time, construction was deemed essential.
Yeah.
So we masked up and as safe as we could be for our clients, and we still was. I mean, I'm not going to say that there was no lull in the business, but it was a situation where we had to break out on our own. It wasn't a forced deal, but it was just time. And regardless of what the climate was like, so to speak, we made it happen. And doing it as safe precautionary measures as we could. But again, a lot of that was just masked and doing consultations outside versus as much inside and things like that. And a lot of our business at that time was roofing related. I mean, it's still to this day, a lot of our stuff is roofing. Now, we're a full mitigation company, so we do water mitigation, mold containment, applied drying, fire, stuff like that.
Yep.
But, my roots from 15 years ago or so, 14 years ago, are roofing. So my wife, Shannon, is the actual one that is IICRC certified, which is like the governing body for, your floods and your disasters and things like that. So her and I coming together, it's just like my base knowledge is in this, her base knowledge is in this, and we come together, and it's just I'm loving it, man. Life's good.
So this is like Beauty and the Beast, brains and the brawn sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm just around to lift heavy things.
Yeah, it's kind of like a RiskWell. I do sales and marketing. Most people think of James when they think of RiskWell, but let's not kid ourselves. Allison's really the one in charge. I just talk to people and sell stuff.
That's pretty much the dynamic here.
Every husband and wife couple that are in business together, that's typically how it goes.
She's hyper organized by comparison to me.
Yeah.
I'm very scatterbrained, but I'm good with people. I'm good with people because I'm coming from a genuine place. I'm not trying to like you mentioned, chucking a truck. I'm not like trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I believe in the product that we're selling. I believe in the workmanship and the materials and everything like that, and the end product. And she is. I couldn't do this without her. 100%. There's just no way. And if I did, it would just be a much, watered down version. I'm saying I'd probably still be doing some roofing stuff, but
sure,
she helps bring this all together, hands down.
So I can't help but have other things in my head because Fred and I made a commitment at the beginning of this podcast. We're not going to be promoting our businesses in any of these episodes. But I bring certain context into these conversations as a host. And one of the things that is most frustrating about roofers, specifically in the state of Texas, is there's no licensing requirement. Roofing as an industry in Texas is kind of the Wild West. Like, you can buy a pallet of shingles, get a magnet for your truck, and call yourself a roofer. How is Nimble and NRS different? What makes you guys more credible, more reliable, more professional than the literally thousands? There are thousands of roofers in the North Texas area, especially when storm season comes along, which we're going to get to in a couple of minutes. And we get folks from 12 different states come here and they pop up.
I love whenever the storm season rolls around, and inevitably I see something like a Buick LeSabre.
It's gotta be a Buick LeSabre
with a magnet on the sides that says roofs.
Yeah, but it has Kansas license plates.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it's just an inherent problem. So
how is Nimble and NRS not your typical fly-by-night operation?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have a brick and mortar office. Like, if a customer has a problem, they can literally come to our office and say, "Hey, this is the problem." Of course, we're very responsive. But to your point, there is no license. And to even go further into that, Texas is the only coastal state that does not have any sort of regulation. Every state that touches us has some sort of registration, license requirement. And so it's just, it's kind of a banana situation to me, because you would think that to protect, constituents, that, politicians wouldn't be pushing back on this. But, political climate is what it is. We, as vice president of RCAT, which is the largest roofing trade organization in Texas, April is roofing day at the Capitol. So we're going to go down there and we're going to basically talk to politicians and say, hey, this is what we're pushing for. There are thousands of roofers, especially, storm chasers, converge after a storm, and people are getting deductibles taken. You're getting shoddy work, and there's no accountability, because the guy that does somebody wrong today can just change the name with a new DBA tomorrow for $29 and new magnets, and they're a new roofing company. It's
there's
crazy.
No accountability.
There's no accountability. And so, as far as what sets us apart is, we are very reputation based. We are 100% 5-star rated. No bot reviews or anything like that. These are all legitimate customers. Obviously, we have our A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, which, say what you will.
That still matters.
Some people are like, I don't, the pay to play. But I'm like, look, it is a tried and true thing that a lot of people reference for whether it be roofers or appliance repair guys or whatever. And so A+ Better Business, we have a voluntary license through RCAT, which is basically consists of taking a 3-part test: practical application, business administration, and safety. You have to do CE credits and all that thing. Again, it's kind of just an extra hoop that we jump through to let our clients know, like, hey, you're dealing with a real deal here. Like, we're here to get you to the finish line and make it happen, and we're going to be here before, during, and after the sale, so to speak. So, so those are kind of the things that separate us. I mean, obviously, we have other accreditations and stuff, to our company, but I think that the brick and mortar, the fact that you can go, our online presence is pretty good in my opinion. You know, it's and the fact that we're family owned. I mean, it's just, we're not one of these things just gonna, like a fart in the wind, just disappear. We're here. And
to that end, I got to encourage people, if you like funny social media stuff, if you like having a good laugh, Mike Eyman's a great follow, because your brand is still Your Roofologist, right?
So Your Roofologist is something that I started while I was over at Absolute.
Yeah.
Because and it wasn't really as a push necessarily to gain business. It was just like, I'm on this roof and look at this trash work.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
hashtag janky roofer.
Hashtag janky roofer. And that's something I kind of coined. I'm like, guys, look, I mean, you're seeking out the cheapest bid.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, everybody wants a deal, but like, at what cost are we looking at here? Because I mean, I would argue that your roof is the most important part of your house. And I know
it's like the skin on your body.
Well, I know the old adage is like, well, you need a strong foundation. And that's not untrue, but the reality here is that you can live in a house with a cracked foundation. I see it all the time. Houses shift, especially out in Irving, where it's like they're building on mud. But if you live in a house with a cracked roof, you got water coming in, you got mold, you got, air quality issues, drywall, hardwood floors, all the things.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's why I say that I think your roof's the most important part. So keeping the envelope closed and Mother Nature outside where she belongs is something that should have some sort of license or regulation in it, And I'm just like, I don't necessarily want the government in my business, but I'm also of the mindset like, hey, like, come on.
But at a certain point,
we got to do something here. Like, this is just getting ridiculous.
We work with hundreds of contractors in every trade imaginable.
Yeah.
And I can go down the list of all the different trades, all the people listening to this episode. Think about all the people that you interact with from a contractor space. Plumbers and electricians and HVAC and, all of these trades require some sort of accreditation, some sort of certification. Just about anybody that you're going to hire to come into your home, unless it's just like some handyman contractor who's doing some routine thing, almost every skilled trade has some sort of licensing requirement, some sort of accreditation where the consumer, the person who's going out and hiring, can look at someone's record with whatever the regulatory body is and check and see if there's been any formal complaints with the state board of electricians or whatever. And that doesn't exist for roofers. As somebody who works in insurance and deals with a lot of roofers and storm restoration contractors, whatever you want to call yourselves, the fact that there's no licensing, it just makes it so much more important that the consumer, the homeowner, the business owner, whoever it is, you got to do a little bit more digging to figure out if this roofer that you're considering hiring and inviting into your property is actually deserving of your business at all. It's from the homeowners, from the business owner's perspective, it's incredibly frustrating.
Well, I mean, I think it's even more bizarre that the people that cut hair, they have to have a license.
That's right.
And your hair grows back. I mean, your roof ain't not going to grow back. I mean, so you're telling me that the stylist that cuts people's hair has to have a license regulated by the state and hair grows back. I just don't get it. So,
but I want to make a couple of points here, and I'm not doing your job for you, but as someone who's making recommendations all the time of vendors, like the two things that really stand out to me is involvement in your trade association. Mm-hmm. Whatever the profession is, I don't take someone quite as seriously if they're not actively involved in the professional development of their industry. Like when you see a doctor and you see fellowship such and such, member of the board of such and such, it's like, oh, this person cares about their profession. So the fact that you're 100%. The vice president elected by your peers in RCAT, Roofing Contractors Association of Texas, made up of several thousand roofing contractors from across Texas, you were elected VP, which tells me Mike Eyman really cares about the practice of roofing in Texas. And secondly, that you guys have voluntarily gone out and got a license that is administered by RCAT that says, hey, customer, we take this very seriously, and we've done the voluntary extra step. Nobody told us to do it, but we did it anyway. Like, those two things really stand out to me as being huge positives, because a lot of folks out there that might do a good job roofing, who knows?
Yeah.
But they don't take those extra steps to give the customer peace of mind and trust that it's going to be done the right way.
I mean, I'm of the mindset it's a why not situation. I mean, the amount of money that RCAT charges to be a member and to give you access to classes and networking opportunities with other inherently more experience. I mean, I'm networking with guys that have had their businesses are 7 years old, like roofing companies. So I mean, there's a lot of knowledge that I don't have that I can tap into by using or leveraging the Roofing Contractors Association of Texas, the network there. And so, I mean, to your point, I mean, I'm not saying that roofers are bad if they're not part of RCAT, but I would also argue, why are you not? If you're serious about your craft and you're serious about, making sure that you're up to speed with anything new that's in the industry, and so that you can ultimately offer the end consumer a better overall experience because you just know your stuff, well, then you should. So.
Man. So, sorry. Like, I tell you,
the pillow behind your back.
Getting older.
That lumbar.
Getting older, there's just certain things that I'm like, oh my goodness, What would you say has been the greatest challenge for you in forming your own roofing company? Because I'm certain that there are other people out there that they see the profitability of the business, but there are a lot of roofers out there who get into it and realize that they don't have what it takes, and then all of a sudden they're cutting corners and getting out of the
lifetime
business.
warranty suddenly isn't worth anything because the company that sold it to you is out of business.
That's right. So
I mean, I would say that in this business, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, oh, I can just do it by myself. And I'm not saying that people can't, but I'm saying like business ownership is not for the weak. And you guys can, and I'm sure, can attest to this.
Absolutely.
It sounds all like what you
Dude,
said, rainbows.
It's super easy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
money just jumps in the wallet.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not taking away from the benefits of it. I have a little bit more schedule flexibility. I still have to grind and stay on my guys and be there as a training conduit and whatnot. But and then there's the taxes and the comptroller and all the things. But it's the barrier of entry needs to be higher for roofing. It just does. And $29 at your local county clerk's office to file for a DBA, and there's no insurance requirement. So I mean, hopefully if we can get a license on the books or some sort of registration where John Smith over here can't just do people wrong and then just start a new roofing company, and he's a new entity, so he's got this clean slate. That's not sustainable. I mean, it's got to change. And
it's honestly, it's bizarre to me that the state of Texas doesn't have more infrastructure in place to hold contractors accountable. It doesn't make any sense.
And the fact
to
that
me.
people don't even know about it.
Yeah.
Like I talk to homeowners all the time, and because part of our thing is like it's in our folder when we go to do our presentation. Like, hey, just so you know, you got a lot of options when it comes to roofing and just other restoration. You got a lot of options, but not all of those options are created equal.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're the best, but I'm saying like we are definitely a top tier provider here because like we believe in what we're doing and we stand by it. So
as we start to land the plane here in your episode, I want to end it with some very specific advice, because your episode's dropping in March, and anybody who's lived in North Texas for any period of time knows March, April, May, and June is when all the nasty thunder bumpers come through, and who knows? As my granddad used to call them, thunder bumpers.
Thunder bumpers, okay.
Now, you may have just rain, you may have lightning, you may have straight line wind, you may have the apocalypse with softballs falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you have for people the specific action that listeners to this episode need to take to avoid getting scammed, screwed, picking the wrong roofing professional, storm damage professional. What kind of specific advice do you have for our listeners?
Unless your roof is actively leaking, don't be so quick to sign anything. Look, my guys go out into neighborhoods following a storm, and they're knocking on doors, shaking hands, kissing babies, campaigning for roofs, right? I mean, look, it's the part of our business inherently, but unless your roof has a hole in it or leaking or whatever, you don't need to sign a contract on site. What I would highly recommend is that you take that information, you listen to the spiel, and you go online and do the research. It's like, hey, who's this guy? Like, read all the reviews, all the things. I encourage people to do that because I know what they're going to see.
Yeah.
They're going to see 100 plus, 5-star reviews, and we're put together. We have all the association. But what I know is that there's a lot of pressure tactics, kind of like, oh, you got to sign it right now, or I can't help you, and you got, your roof's blasted. But the reality is that your roof inherently has a moisture barrier between the decking and the shingles. So if the shingles are damaged, okay, that's great. But that doesn't inherently mean it's
the underlayment's still there.
The underlayment's still there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, unless you have a straight line wind where it rips a section of your roof off, that may be a little bit more. I mean, if you need an active, like a tarp situation, you may have to sign something, but you don't need to sign a contract. You just sign for that tarp.
Yep.
You sign for that tarp and say, hey, we'll talk about what the future holds for you doing my roof, but for right now, I need this. I would just say in a small clip is like, don't fall for the high pressure, like it's an emergency right now. It may be an emergency, but in 9 times out of 10, you just get some hail damage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't fix it, but I'm saying like you don't need to sign a contract right then and there on your doorstep.
Yeah. Just
because somebody's trying to make a mountain out of a molehill.
One of the things that we always used to tell our clients, and full transparency, RiskWell does not do personal insurance. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. One of the things that always used to drive us crazy was when someone would have a hail event early in the season and they would get the roof replaced in April or whatever. Like, I lost count of the number of times that someone would get a roof replaced a month and a half before storm season is officially over, like the second or third week of June.
Yeah.
I kind of consider, okay, storm season is now over. We'll still get some storms in other parts of the year. I'm looking at you, December 26th, October 12th, September 30th. In previous years, we've had massive hailstorms not during storm season. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, second week of March to the second week of June is when everybody should be on high alert.
Yeah.
I see you shaking your head there. My advice to folks listening to this is do not replace your roof in April or May.
Do it in the fall.
Yeah.
Do it in the fall.
If you can wait to be completely outside of storm season, you might get some discounts. You might get some better rates when roofers are a lot more eager to stir up business in the quote-unquote off-season. Yeah. For God's sake, people, do not replace your roof in the spring unless you've got an emergent situation.
Exactly. I mean, look, and look, my business, I do roofs in spring and summer. But, I mean, here's the breakdown, right? So in spring, like you said, you run the inherent risk of another storm coming through and blasting the brand new roof that you got up there.
And here's the thing, folks, from an insurance perspective, you got 2 roof claims in 1 year, you're radioactive to the insurance world.
Yeah.
Good luck getting homeowners insurance at anything that's close to a reasonable price.
Yeah. And then, we roll into summer. Summer, I mean, it's an unforgiving Texas heat. A lot of the shingles that are out there right now, and because shingles represent like 90%. Of what's out there, 80. I think it's actually 80%. But they're made with a product with a compound called SBS, a chemical called SBS, which is styrene, butadiene, styrene. Essentially, it's like a rubberized material that's injected into the shingle to give it some shock absorption. Well, that stuff, when it gets super hot, the granules are kind of just floating there, so it's easily scarred. And so when you're doing these roofs and it's 100 degrees outside, you run the risk of the roof looking like trash when it's brand new.
Yeah.
And you get off the roof. Obviously, winter has its challenges. It's just super cold. I made a video for my channel a while back about shingles being super brittle. I left some outside, and we had that freeze just a few weeks ago or whatever. And I mean, literally, I bent the shingle and it broke. And so, I mean, just imagine the micro cracks and fractures that you can do when you do it in winter. So I would say fall. I mean, fall. I love fall. I love roofing in fall. It's like 70 degrees, high 60s. I'm like, this is great. Like, I'm out there, you're chilling. And I think it's just overall, it's just better for the homeowner. Now, again, I don't mean to do this and shoot myself in the foot because we roof year round.
Sure.
But Texas weather, even in the wintertime, we get those, those more temperate, times, and we can do it. And then in summer, we have a little bit of cold spell maybe, or it's not as blistering hot. But I would say, yeah, for anybody listening, if you just want to play a safe bet, fall's the best. Fall's the best season to install a roof.
Okay, so when it comes to
shingle roof, okay, that's
shingle
not
roof,
applicable
that's right.
to like metal and other stuff. That's a whole different
The
conversation.
commercial roof is a completely
That's
different
right.
conversation.
That's right.
Because you've got built-up bitumen
Yeah.
or a membrane. There's all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm only
on the
talking about
commercial-
shingles because shingles represent, like I said, about 80% of
Yeah,
the residential homes that are out.
roof.
Yeah.
And most of the people listening to this episode don't have any need for a commercial roof.
Right.
right. So when it comes to, I think my roof got hit, and I can't recall exactly when. What is the limitation on a storm claim for your roof?
So typically the rule of thumb is 12 months from what they call a date of loss. And again, you can chime in on this.
Yep.
Sometimes it's I know some carriers, I can't list them off right now, but some will give you an extension 2 years. But in my experience, that is the time at which they could come back and say, we're not doing it. Duties after loss, which is a clause in pretty much all policies, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it basically says that you have a certain amount of time to
It's in the conditions of the policy.
disclose to the carrier that you have damage. And this would be evident by the fact that everybody around you got a new roof. Maybe probably time to pick up the phone. But in my experience, even though that those duties after loss, technical limitations are there, if you've been with a carrier for 10 years and you have a hailstorm and you don't call it in, most of the time, in my experience, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt because you've been a loyal customer. Now, if you're jumping around and doing all this dancing around carrier to carrier, just trying to find the cheapest deal, yeah, they're not going to give you that same consideration in my experience.
You're not going to get any special permission.
But I've had situations where there wasn't a storm for 3 years, but this guy had been with, I can't remember the carrier, but it's been with them like 20, 25 years. And they came out there and they're just like, hey, we're just going to do them a solid. We're going to make this happen. I'm like, awesome. Roof was trashed. But I mean, it wasn't leaking, so the guy didn't call. And it was like the last storm we were able to pull up on, it was like 3 years old. I'm like, it's a Hail Mary pass, but like we're going to try. And adjuster came out there, was an in-house guy, power of the purse kind of guy. He just wrote it up in his van, and I was like, great, awesome. I was like, it was a chance, and we took it. But again, that's not applicable if you're jumping around trying to find the cheapest bid. It's just not.
The last thing, and then Fred will hit you with the lightning round questions. We don't write with Allstate, but my parents have been with Allstate for 40 years.
Yeah.
They're lifetime Allstate folks. And, I mean, their son's an insurance agent. So, of course, they're going to field all their insurance questions to me. They never call their agent. They call their son, even though their son's not their agent. And I prefer that I'm not their agent because I'm too close to the tree. You know what they say.
Yeah, no.
But,
gotcha.
I mean, their roof was trashed, absolutely trashed. But it was, like, old, deteriorated, been on the house since I lived there when I was 10 years old. It was like super old roof. And they called me. It was like, well, I think we're going to file a hail claim. I was like, but you don't have any storm damage. I was like, well, yeah, but our roof is in really bad shape. I was like, yeah, your roof's like 20, 25, 30 years old. This is still like the original roof, Mom. They're like, well, yeah, we're going to file a claim anyway. I was like, Mom, I don't think you should file a claim. Don't do it. Yeah. And I'll be darned if Allstate didn't replace the entire roof. They shouldn't have. I was just sitting there like, I mean, they're going to deny this claim, Mom.
Sometimes they get, sometimes they amaze me. I mean, typically when I train my guys to do this, I'm like, I don't want to put anybody in a bad spot.
Yeah.
So I tell them like, look, roofs are in one of three conditions at any given time: damaged, not damaged, or marginal.
Yeah.
If they're damaged, I think it's a slam dunk. Ray Charles can get up there, find hail. I mean, it's Braille. It's like, like we're doing this. Not damaged, it's just like, hey guys, call me when you get another storm. We'll come out, we'll recheck it, see where you're at. And marginal is like, you got it, but it really depends on the adjuster.
Yeah.
And so I just basically put the ball in the homeowner's court. Like, hey, you want to run this down? I'm here to help.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make any guarantees or anything like that. I can't make any guarantees anyways, but I also don't want to oversell it.
Yeah.
Like, this is a marginal situation.
Yeah.
And so that way they're not mad at us, misrepresenting the situation. So we get amazed sometimes, by how they pay for roofs that we're like, okay, we're marginal. But then again, I'm also in a situation, and I'm sure you can speak to this, is where, there is massive amounts of hail, and they're like, I don't see anything. And it's like walking around a dark room. I'm like, how are you not seeing this? What are you seeing this? Oh,
that's when you get your
like
chalk pencil
poop.
out. Like start circling 48 things on the roof.
Or you say,
Fred, hit him with a lightning round.
look at the river of rocks, river of rocks in the gutter.
Go into the gutter. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so actually, I do have one other technical question.
Okay.
How do satellite dishes and solar panels affect the longevity or integrity of the roof?
So satellite dishes, not really a big thing for us. I mean,
People still put satellite dishes on homes. Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
still a thing. I mean, you would think that everybody's going to streaming services, but yeah, I mean, we dismount them all the time. We throw a lot of them away when we're doing re-roofs. A lot of the times, I'm like, hey, Mr. Homeowner, are we saving these 4 dishes that you haven't had up there collectively over the last 15 years? He's like, no, take them all down. And so that's more times than not. To your question about solar panels, I hate solar panels on roofs. You know, my concern is the integrity of the roof and making sure that it doesn't leak. And so we're already dealing with penetrations on the roof, like your plumbing vents, your attic vents,
all the jacks,
your skylights, your chimney. The last thing I need is some company that, you know, doesn't really care about quality control getting up there, plunging more holes into the roof that are now covered. So, like, if I need to fix something, those panels are put close together. So I have to dismount the panels, and we're not about to do that because that's not insurance, not covered for that. It's not our thing. So we have to get another company out there to do a detach and reset just to make a repair. I think it's the worst. But I understand why people do it because of the space. You know, you're in quarter acre lot. I mean, you don't have enough room to put a ground mount array in your property.
Yeah.
So they put them on the roof. I think it looks ugly. I think it just inherently it has problems because a lot of times these guys install these.
And when you go to sell your house, it's a nightmare.
A nightmare. I actually just taught a class for a Trek CE class for realtors down in Dallas, and I was talking about solar panels. And I was like, look, I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys anything. It can hold up deals because, you know, a lot of times when people are getting loans to get pre-approvals and whatnot, they're not getting pre-approvals for the house. Oh, and the $60,000 solar array that's on the top of the roof. And so it's not just easy like, oh, we'll just roll the loan over to this person. Like
the previous homeowner has $40,000 balance on their solar panel loan.
And I'm just like, so not a super fan of solar. I mean, I don't hate solar as the technology. I just hate it as it's related to roofing because real estate implications, leak implications. It's not my thing.
Well, I got to say, I see commercials all the time on my social media that say I can get my solar for free. So, but that's another story.
Hey,
right?
Dive into the top of the funnel.
Oh my gosh! Yes. You don't want to click
top
on that.
Of the funnel. There you go, man. Really? Tell me more.
That's almost as bad as asking for a car insurance quote.
They'll never stop. You'll be getting
you'll be getting calls for the next 2 years.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. All right. So lightning round.
Yeah.
We just came off the Super Bowl, and you mentioned your roots, up there in the northeastern region of our nation. Patriots or Eagles?
Patriots all day.
Really?
All day.
Really?
I mean, are we talking about my favorite? Or are we talking about?
No, just
your favorite.
Lightning round.
100%. I was raised a Patriots fan, and so
not Giants or Jets.
No.
Okay.
No.
So
who?
Yeah.
Who?
That's right.
Exactly.
There you go.
So regardless of Brady or not Brady, still Patriots.
Hey man,
Patriots.
hey, we had a good run, and the goat's gone, but I'm
good run. 18 years, 7 Super Bowls.
A solid run. I wasn't gonna do I wasn't gonna do it, but yeah, I mean it was a really good run. I mean he's great, and him and Edelman, I loved watching those guys play, and Gronk, and now they're commentating. So I mean it's cool, but I'm still rooting for the Pats. Like I said, it was just, it's in my blood.
So did you support Brady when he went to the Bucs?
I was pretty sore about it, but I mean, I was like, hey man, I get you got to switch it up. You want to go and show that you can do it out from under Belichick. I get it, but
so was it Belichick or was it Brady? The secret sauce for 6, and it was, by the way, it was 6 Super Bowls, not 7, because Brady won his 7th in Tampa Bay.
I think if I had to call it right now, it kind of got me on the spot. I think it's going to be more Brady than Belichick. I think Belichick was a great coach.
Yeah.
But I think that if it was that simple, then after Brady left, he would have just smashed.
Yeah.
Not really the case.
Belichick without Brady wasn't nearly as good.
Yeah, but I think that as a duo, they were definitely dynamic. I think that they had that.
You got one last lightning round, or are you going to hit him with the big one?
Oh, I got it. Well, actually, no. Okay, so since we're on this topic, Deflategate, true or false?
You are just banging that drum, aren't you?
I don't know. I mean, I personally think that if your loss in a game can be reduced to a couple PSI in a ball, like, are we really talking about the ball, or are we talking about your skill?
That's right. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's where I kind of stand on that.
All right. So the truly hard question here: tacos?
You Spygate. He's going to go to the Spygate.
Tacos or brisket?
Tacos. So
what about brisket tacos? Because that's a thing.
So
baby.
I love tacos for their versatility.
Yeah.
You can make them with anything. I love torchies just because they are just they throw a bunch of different flavor profiles. Sometimes I'm digging it, sometimes I'm not.
Okay. Now I know how big a deal it is with the roofing industry. A lot of Hispanic folks work in the roofing industry. I know you've got your favorite roadside taqueria somewhere around here. Your office is on Fuel City?
Fuel City in Dallas.
Okay. If you're over on the east side on Industrial where your office is, there's a lot of real good Hispanic food, lots of good taco spots on the east side of McKinney. What's your favorite one over there?
So there's one actually, oh my God, I can't remember the name of it. It's one right across the street from our shop. It's
Okay.
pretty good. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Well, tell us where your shop is, and then that'll tell people where to go.
It's at 330 Industrial Boulevard, and it is like catty corner from us, going towards the airport.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Fuel City has just been a tried and true for years. And honestly, I mean, I like brisket, but I'm more of a ribs guy.
Okay.
I make some, I make some slamming ribs. Yeah.
So is that your side hustle when you're not doing gymnastics off of roofs?
My parkour.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. My wife Shannon actually does more smoking than I do, but my thing is like when I do want to do ribs, I'll do
You hear how he just brought up his wife? He said that his wife is smoking.
Well,
awesome.
every husband should think their wife is smoking.
Yeah, in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Physical appearance and on the smoker.
There you go.
There we go.
All right, James.
Yeah. Let's hit this.
Hope you get your thinking cap on.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. The dramatic music.
Who would win in a fight between a giant polar bear, 12-foot tall polar bear, and a big old great white shark? Here's the catch. The fight occurs in a swimming pool that is 6 feet deep, but it goes on forever. There's no edges to the swimming pool. Who wins, polar bear or shark?
Polar bear. Because polar bear's got teeth and sharp claws times 4.
Yep.
And so more striking power.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's also my answer.
And they're used to the water. So, I mean, it's not like you're taking a grizzly, putting him underwater with a great white. Great white's only thing is their jaw, is their teeth in their jaw. So, yeah, I'm going to go with polar bear.
I love that answer. No, I'm team polar bear. Fred is team shark.
I'm just trying to logic the crap out of this. Just like, all right, so we got 4 striking points plus the mouth. I'm like,
yeah, have you seen the paws on a polar bear? They're the size of my face.
Ridiculous.
My entire head.
They're ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's all we got.
All right.
This episode ran long, but it didn't feel like it.
Man, it was quick.
We got a lot of stuff. Folks, whatever you're doing with storm season, make sure you're holding people accountable. Have high standards for the people you
100%.
choose to hire and bring into your home. If it's Mike and Nimble and NRS, great. If it's not, I know half a dozen other roofers in McKinney who do it right, who are great options. If you want a suggestion on other options, if for some reason NRS or Nimble it isn't the right fit, let me know and we can talk offline. The most important thing to me is that nobody gets taken for a ride. And if you're looking for a great contractor, NRS and Nimble are a great option.
There are a lot of great companies out there. I mean, a lot of great companies. I've networked with a lot of these guys, but what I think people need to know is that there is an equal, if not more, number of just dirt bags that will just cut corners without your knowledge and just not do
the likelihood of you hiring a janky roofer is better than 50%.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Fred, anything else you want to add here? We're good to go.
And we're going to put your contact info in the show notes.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
So that people know, and don't just let anybody on your roof, right?
No.
Make them
we're doing a lot of drone stuff now because drones are shooting in 4K. I mean, I can see hail damage if it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we'll if it's not like a marginal I was talking about earlier, we'll do a physical inspection, and sometimes we'll do physical inspections anyways. But a lot of people like the drones because we're not dealing with homeowners insurance, fall off the roof, there's a problem.
We got to wrap this up. We got our next guest waiting.
All right.
Hey, folks, this has been an episode of the McKinney Podcast, celebrating what makes us unique by nature. And
right.
we'll see you next time, boys and girls. Take care.